Hey guys, Scott here. Today I want to talk about the group that I believe is going to suffer the most from MMR. I do genuinely think that for the most part, MMR is not going to be that big of a problem for a large majority of players. So I don't think it's going to be the end of the world or the end of the game or anything like that. Even my experiences with it were not that bad because I realize I don't typically actually play that sweaty. So I'm probably not even going to have to deal with the sweatiest shit in the world. So I think it'll be okay. I think it's worse than not having it, but at the end of the day, not that huge of a deal. However, there is one group that is going to suffer, I think, way more than anyone else, and I do feel bad for them. And that's streamers. Streamers we're just better than you guys. We're just the center of the universe, and everything needs to be balanced around our whim. Now, the actual group that I'm talking about are just good survivors. Good survivors are going to suffer by far more than anybody else with this system, to the point I'm actually concerned about what it's going to do to the ecosystem of the entire game. So the problem is good survivors, I mean, people have hashed this discussion before, good survivors are only going to see, Nurse, Spear, and Blight, because those are the only killers that are going to be able to get to that level that very good survivors can get to. So that's basically all they're going to see. Now, one of the biggest arguments against my disagreements with the system, people always try to boil my argument down to, well, you just want easy games. You just want to stop new players. And I don't know why people keep saying that shit as if that is remotely the case. The issue is, and this is the main point why I'm so worried about this group, for example, is variety. It's about fun. I always value fun over balance in this game. Like, balance is important, don't get me wrong, but fun is more important. If the game's not fun, no one plays it. I don't care if it's the most balanced game in the world. It has to be fun, and then balance comes secondary to it. So I always put fun before that. And the thing is, for these good survivors, they're only going to go against the same three killers over and over and over and over until they're bored of the game and stop playing. You can only take so much Nurse, Spirit, and Blight. Like, even comp players get sick of, like, Spirit. And most of those comp players don't even play in this queue. They'll be playing in their own, kill your friends matches. So they're not even really involved in this scenario. It's mostly just the regular, very good survivors that are just going to see the same killers over and over and over again. And so it's not an argument of, well, they just want to shit on weaker killers. That's not true at all. The thing is, the good survivors that I know, they enjoy a challenge. They enjoy going against strong killers as long as there's some variety in it. If you just go against 17 nurses in a row, it's just exposure to something. You could fuck a supermodel 5 times a day, every day for 5 years, and at the 5th year, you might actually value playing DBD over fucking the supermodel. If you're exposed to something enough, you just get bored of it. It has nothing to do with levels of strength or adversity or the challenge that you're going against. It's just if you do the same thing over and over again, you're going to get bored of it. So it's less an argument about that and more just, I don't want to see, 50 Blights in a row with the same builds. I don't want to see Nurses in a row with the same builds or Spirits in a row with the same builds. It's not that they want to just stomp newer players or they want to stomp the weaker killers. They just want some variety. I don't think people would actually complain if they got a bunch of strong killers that actually beat them pretty regularly, as long as the experience of the game was different. I think people would be okay with that. I know I would. Like, I don't mind going against good killers as long as there's just some variety in it. Like, if I just get a random Blight, that's awesome. I actually like going against Blight. And then if I just get, like, a random Huntress, that's fine. Then even throw a Nurse in there, it's fine. And then if you throw a Spirit on there too, okay, whatever. It's just one Spirit. And then we move on. Like, I don't actually mind going against good killers. And most of these players don't mind going against good opponents. It's just we want variety. People that play this game a lot tend to be the best, not always, but there's definitely a correlation with the amount of time that you spent playing the game with the amount of skill you have in the game. That's just how it goes. Like I said, it's not always a 1-to-1 ratio there, but there's a correlation there for sure. But the problem is for that group of people, they're just going to keep going against the same shit if they're very good, because that'll be the only thing that can get to their level. And so it's going to create this weird shift in the player base. So my whole theory on how Dead by Daylight somehow works is because of my idea that all of the good players realize there's no incentive to be that good at this game. There's no reward for it. There's no upside other than just less fun. So the good players get bored and play less. At a quicker rate, new players see players play this game and they get excited about it and join. So the retention rate of new players is less than the growth rate of wait, what did I just say? The retention rate of veteran players is less than the growth rate of new players. That's what I meant to say. And it creates this system where the average never really gets that much higher. So the average skill level doesn't really ever budge, which is why so many people seem boosted as shit in this game, because it's just a constant influx of new players. And I think this whole MMR system, ironically, will exacerbate that even more, because the good players are going to only encounter those things now, and they're going to get bored at an even faster rate. So the amount of good survivors in this game will drastically decrease over time as people just get sick of the same thing over and over again. Now, there is the whole additional counter argument people make where, okay, so if they see that's the case, they're going to use this new data that they can see and start changing things so more killers can be in that bracket with the players that, are getting burnt out from the same 3 killers. And while that's a very tantalizing idea, not only have they expressed that they don't want to balance for that section, they've literally said that, but even if they did, the problem is the rate at which they release new killers is equal to the rate at which they update old killers. And even if they had every update of an old killer to put them at nurse levels of strength, it would still be a 1-to-1 ratio of there being far more killers that are not able to compete at that level compared to killers that can compete at that level, which results in the same level of stagnation and the same shit over and over again. But now you've got one other guy that can be there too. And yes, over 10 years, the roster will be enough at that level with this method that, yes, now there is variety and the game's fixed. But the duration that it takes is just not feasible. They're too slow at editing things. They're too slow at making changes in their game. And I don't see them randomly upping their production value or the production time just out of nowhere. I just don't see it happening. Maybe it will happen, and then that'll be great. But, I've been studying the company for almost 5 years now, and nothing in their history indicates that they're just going to step up the speed at which they do this stuff. And also, this also assumes that when they do that, once every 3 months rework of somebody, that they're going to nail the rework and make them a killer that can compete with the top level, which, think about how many reworks have put killers at the level of Nurse, Spirit, or Blight. It's 0. None of them have done that. So even though they are reworking killers basically every 3 months, none of them have actually been up to the level that can compete with the very best survivors. So what are people assuming is going to happen? They're just going to figure this shit out immediately and then change their entire work? It's just not going to happen. There's just no planet on which that happens. Call me cynical, but why would you assume anything but that based on their history? So that is, I think, the group that is going to suffer the most. It's just going to be good survivors. I think good killers are not going to have a good time too, because they're going to feel pressure to just run the same builds on strong killers, even though it's not quite the case. But strong survivors don't have a choice. Like, killers have a difficulty select. I don't know if people realize. Like, once your MMR is very high with a certain killer, you can just switch to a killer you play less. It actually is a built-in difficulty select. You can have easier matches basically whenever you want as killer. Survivors will not get that luxury. If they're good, they're just going to go against the same shit forever. Unless they intentionally kill themselves to tank their rating, which then makes the rating system flawed if everybody is trying to kill themselves because there's no incentive to be good. And now we're in 15 other arguments why IMMR is not great, because there's no incentive to have IMMR. There's no reason to. You don't see it. You can't brag about it. There's no reward. That's another. I have 50 arguments why I don't think it's a good idea. But I just wanted to focus on a group that's not even me, because, I consider myself decent at Survivor. But if you'll consider, if you watch me play the game, I spend most of my matches just trying to triple blind a killer with head-on and flashbangs, and it's just like, I just do dumb shit because I find that fun. I value doing dumb shit over fun in this game. And, I really feel for the people that are just simply good at Survivor, because I think they're just going to stop playing. I think the overall skill level of the game is going to keep going down as these good survivors get so sick of the same killers over and over again. And it's not like you can make sweeping changes to fix this issue, because if you make a sweeping change to the entire game that makes Clown better, you just make the top tier killers even better. Like, there's such a disparity between the worst killer and the best killer that sweeping changes can't really work, in my opinion. You need to do individual killer-based changes. And I don't know. It's so much work. They're too slow at it, to the point where I just think this group of players are just going to suffer until they get bored of the game. So that is it, guys. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.